Wow. What a fantastic conversation this one was. Nick really takes us on a journey of his early career, what concussion has meant for him, and the mental practices he has to go through on a daily basis. It really is inspiring, but I took more than that. You can't just say his story is unique and it's just for him. You can take all of that wisdom and apply it across the board in your relationship, in your work, in how you see yourself. There was so much in this conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. Nick was a fantastic guest. Please have a look at his book. It sounds amazing. And enjoy. Let's dive in. Okay, so welcome back to Vantage Point Conversations. I'm your host, Colin Parsons. And if you've been here before, you know that I get to interview, well, I don't really see it as an interview. I get to speak to guests from all around the world. Most of the time, probably would have never have come into contact with these type of people. And my guest today is Nick Morrison. Nick, you're probably a fine example of that because you've done bull riding, and then we're going to get into it in a second. But yeah, probably not something I would have ever ventured into. But yeah, so Nick, I don't really introduce my guests. It's not me being lazy. It's just me wanting to sort of hand it over to you. So take as long or little time as you like. Highlights, lowlights, anything in between, any context, and then we just
Okay.
jump into the conversation from there.
Yeah. I mean, the short version of the story is cowboy through and through. Grew up riding bulls. You guys in Europe, you probably know a John Wayne, and that's the lineage I come from. His real name's Marion Morrison, and so he's off of the offshoot of that lineage, and so being a cowboy kind of was part of my life from the start. With on my dad's side and my mom's side. My mom's side, we grew up on a large ranch, been in the family over 100 years, and my grandpa, great grandpa, great uncle, all the Wyoming Cowboy Hall of Fame. And so just I had no choice but to be one. And a part of that was being in rodeo. And so I chose bull riding as my discipline, and I had a very good career with it until that career was over. 21 years old, I had a career-ending injury. I made it all the way up to the pros, but just couldn't stay healthy. Broke C2 in my neck my rookie year. I broke T10-11 in my back my second year, and then third year I had some shoulder issues, had to get some surgeries, and then my fourth year it was over, it was done. And so, long story short, now I'm a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker, traveling all around the world, inspiring people to push through adversity. My biggest, I also speak to like sports teams and medical field because one of my main things is I have a serious brain injury from over 50 recorded concussions. And so, long culmination, I don't want to get into the whole story of it, but a lot of it culminated into 2020, me having a reaction to the brain injury to all the concussions called a hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, and which was pretty much oxygen got robbed of the brain, and it left me fully mute and pretty much inoperable. And I had a choice to make if I wanted that to be my new reality or I wanted to push through it. And so I worked hard to learn to speak again, one word at a time, and now that's what I do as a living. So I've traveled around the world inspiring people to work on days they don't feel like they can work or they feel like they need to work. And I'm also a stand-up comedian, so I travel all over the US, making people laugh and getting on stage and just enjoying life, trying to inspire people to, no matter what you're facing, that you can still, it may not be the dream that I wanted it to be. You know, I wanted to ride bulls professionally for the entirety of my life, and at 21 that was over. But you can still make an impact on this world, no matter what you're facing. And so that's kind of just the very, very shortened version of my very wild life.
That is phenomenal. I think the thing that stood out for me is that you couldn't speak. You said you were mute, and now pretty much you're doing two things: motivational speaker and a comedian that require that
Yeah.
fundamentally as the skill. So that's quite. Is that is that because you've pushed yourself that way, or where did you
It's
find
it's
those
it's
things?
it was not learning to speak was not a hey, I fixed it, we're done. Being able to speak is a daily fight for me. So I have to do 2 to 4 hours of brain exercises every single morning. If I don't, like, it's I think 16:30 where you're at, it's 9:30 here. And so I'm up at, what time my alarm, I slept in a little bit, so I think I got up about 5 o'clock this morning to be able to be on this call and do the exercises. And and speak through everything. And so it's a daily thing for me. If I'm on stage, some conference that I'm speaking at, I'm on stage at 8 o'clock. I have to be there for mic check at 7. And I did a comedy show the night before and didn't get to my hotel till 1 or 2 in the morning. I typically not even going to bed. I'm just staying up doing brain exercises so that I can speak articulately. Because if I don't, I stutter a lot, I slur, and then if I let multiple days go without me working on it, then I'm right back into that where I really struggle speaking. And so this has become a daily fight for me and a daily grind. But it's worth it. Um, Being a speaker and being a comedian really pushes me to, on the days I don't want to, it pushes me to have to. Because the days I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I'm like, no, this is what I do, and if I want to impact somebody, if I want to make a difference in someone's life, I'm gonna have to stop being lazy and get up and do this. And so it kind of pushes me a little bit to, but it's not it was fixed. It's a continuously daily grind for me.
And will it ever be fixed? That's you
They
forever. You have to
actually
do
say
it.
it's deteriorative. So, I'm my philosophy in life is work like it depends on me, pray like it depends on God. So I put a lot of my faith in God that it's not gonna be deteriorative, but it is not something that heals itself over time, according to a lot of the experts. So, all the experts. So.
Wow. And just for my own benefit, what sort of routine is that? Is that, you see like people who sing, they have to warm up their voice. Is that
Mhm.
a similar thing, or do you have
So
certain
I
words? Or
I treat it a lot like I used to when I used to go to the gym. I can't go to the gym anymore because of when my heart rate gets too high or my body gets too hot, I pass out. And so you don't want to be on an elliptical machine and pass out, or on lifting weights and pass out. And so I had to stop working. I can't even go for long walks without passing out. That's what brought on the HIE, actually, was exertion and getting hot, and having my heart rate get too high. And so, but I treat it the same as I did when I was in the gym. And so I do a slow ramp up, really heavy, and slow ramp down. So I usually will get up and just do kind of some easy things. I try to rotate those so it's not the same thing. So I try to do like Sudokus or word finds, um, solitaire, things like that. Just make me think a little bit. And then I start to do a little bit tougher and do some of these games on my phone. Like right now, I'm doing an arrow game where it's a big box of arrows, and you just have to figure out what arrows go what direction to clear the whole box. That one really helps. And then I jump into the LinkedIn and do all the LinkedIn games, and go through all of those. I used to do those first, but I'm a little competitive, so I at least try to get a little bit so that I can. I still trying to beat all of my 6,000 mutual friends or whatever on there. So I'll do some before, but then I get really intense. Then I jump on an app that neurologist gave me that works on brain stuff, and it's very intense, very very fast paced. Do that when I'm at my best, and then I'll ramp down, do things like Sudoku, or the New York Times does a thing called I can't even think what it is, but Wordle. And so I'll do like the Wordle and the things on New York Times that they have every day, and just kind of ramp down and then do easy. But at my peak, I'll also read the dictionary out loud. I'll get the dictionary and I'll read the dictionary out loud, and then I'll read 1 or 2 chapters out of my Bible as well, and read those out loud, and kind of kill two birds with one stone, and that helps articulate. But reading through a dictionary helps me to think through words I don't already know. And so I'll read the words and the definitions and just articulate them and push them, and just making my brain almost dial into that. I talk fast by nature, and so if I haven't done the exercises, my brain will either get ahead of my mouth, or my mouth will get ahead of my brain, I'll almost freeze up where I just can't speak. So I just try to think of things that so I've built this big routine, and it takes hours to do, and then I'm good to go and get up in the morning and go on with my normal routine after that.
I was just thinking, because most people hate the gym. They might say that they like it. Some people like it, but how do you feel about your routine? Like you say, that's hours. That's not like, oh, okay, that's 10
It,
minutes. That's like,
there's a lot of days I don't want to do it, just like I go to the gym, but the result is worth it. And so, especially being that sleep is something that's very important for the brain. So I've had to find this balance of, when am I pushing myself? When have the brain exercises become more important than the sleep? Am I lacking sleep, because then they don't matter at all. Because if I'm lacking sleep, then I really have other issues that come up that cause. So I'm really having to find this balance of, if I'm not going to be on stage, if I'm not going to be in front of people, if I'm not doing podcast interviews, okay, those days I may sleep in a little bit and not do exercises to catch up. Or I just try to find that balance. And so, but if I'm doing something where I have to speak, or be around a lot of people, commotion really messes with my brain a lot. I have this thing out, we call it braining out. I don't even know what the medical term for it is, honestly, but there's a lot of commotion going on. Like, let's say we're in a restaurant and there's 30 conversations going on. My brain's trying to listen to all of those. Or if I'm at a group, so usually if I'm in a group of people and they're all talking, my brain's trying to pick up every conversation, and it'll eventually just shut off. And I'll look down, look up, and I won't know where I am. I won't recognize anybody around me. And it spirals very quick. I was actually over in your guys' territory. I was in Germany, and that happened. We just went and saw the Dachau concentration camp. And so a lot of times stress will kind of accelerate it some. And we'd just seen it. I get in the car, and we're driving to Munich. We're gonna go spend a couple days there, so we're driving into Munich, and my nose just starts gushing blood, which is usually a sign something's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, I didn't recognize where I was. And one of the first things I do is I look around and I try to piece together read things around me, and then piece together where I'm at. Well, in my mind, I couldn't fathom that I was in another country. So I'm looking up and everything's in German, and I'm thinking, well, crap, I forgot how to read too. Like, none of these
Yeah.
words make any sense to me whatsoever. And so I really like spiraled into this kind of panic moment because as soon as I can kind of get a hold of something and think through it, I can kind of start to piece things together a little more. But it's learning not to panic. The crazy thing is I know what's happening. Like, you would think it'd be like a dementia patient where you don't, but I know what's happening. I'm coherent with what's going on, and I know that I don't know where I am. My brain will do sometimes it'd be like a dream jump. You know, when you're in a dream and then you think of something and your entire dream shifts to something new. Well, because of all my concussions and how cloudy it is, I really struggle knowing the difference between reality and dream. My dreams are extremely realistic, and to the point that I'll argue with someone that we had a had a conversation, and they're like, "No, we never had that." And I'm like, Did I dream that?" Because like it's so realistic to me. And then the other side of that is my reality is very dreamlike. I've got a constant cloud. You know that feeling when you're kind of on a boat and then you step
Yeah.
back on land and that's the way I am 24/7. It's called a post-concussion syndrome. And so I feel like if you've ever had a concussion, I feel like what you feel like with a concussion, that's 24 hours a day for me. And so, like, what people explain they feel like when they're on Benadryl or something like that, I'm like, that's just normal life for me. And so, because of that dreamlike and everything's kind of delayed and everything, seeing that all the time, then a lot of times something will happen and I'll think I've dreamed it. And so I'll be in real life and my brain will dream jump to somewhere else. So I'll be in like a McDonald's drive through, but then my brain will jump to being in the McDonald's drive-through in a completely different town. So when I go to pull out of that drive-through, now nothing looks like what my brain is telling me it should look like, because I think I'm in this town, but I'm actually in this town, and the roads don't look the same, the scenery doesn't look the same, and it just sends my brain into this thing of I don't know where I am. And the crazy thing is I'll think I've been in this town all day long. Like, why? How do I know? It's almost like I feel like I just kind of jumped ahead in time. So it's really weird, but we've learned to kind of get a handle on it. Sleep is something that really affects that. And so if I'm seeing that happening more, I'll dial back possibly the exercises, and get that little bit of extra sleep, or I'll just make myself be like, you know what, I'm blocking my calendar off until noon or until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or something like that, so that I sleep in till 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and get that extra sleep rather than waking up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to like normal. So I've just found ways to kind of balance that while not hurting myself, but also being able to be the best version of myself to those that I'm trying to pour into.
Yeah. That the way you talk is like I'm just thinking if you kind of your brain's not comprehending where you are, that's quite a scary concept, right? Is it
Yeah.
scary for you, or you just become used to it and okay, that's
It's always scary. I've gotten really good at faking, where I can recognize people, possibly that people know me. And so I've gotten really good about being able to fake that my wife, she can tell immediately. Like she's been around me enough. And that's the crazy thing is I've never forgot her. We've figured out that my mind kind of goes back 3 years. And so if we live in a new house, like I don't recognize the house, but if we've been there for 3 years, I kind of recognize it. And it's scary. It's more confusing than anything. I think would be the best way to say it. You're confused, and I'm trying my hardest to piece puzzles together. Like if I forgot my name, I look at my phone and I try to find what are people calling me in text messages and stuff, and trying to just find any information I can to latch onto. So it is scary, but I've learned, and I talk about this in my book. I have a book that I've written about this that called Knocked Out but Not Down. And I talk about that kind of in one chapter in big extent of kind of what I go through with that and the strategies, because I'm finding as I'm talking to more people with concussion issues, this is more common than people want to admit, or that's out there, because most people, they just freak out. They don't know. They think, well, maybe I drank too much, or maybe and they don't realize it's tied to the concussion. And so I'm trying to give like a roadmap of what works for me. And the worst thing you can do is panic, because when you panic, then you start focusing on everything you don't remember. And so I try to make myself focus on things I do remember. If my wife's the only thing, then I focus on her. What's something I remember. I'm not letting my mind go down that rabbit trail. I think the worst place I got was in Germany, was because I didn't recognize anybody in the car with me, didn't recognize any of the words around me, didn't recognize anything at all. My wife was in another car. She comes up, starts talking to me. She's telling me we're in Germany, and I'm thinking, like, is that a town in Texas? Like, I can't wrap my head around that we're in a different country. And so it is very scary, but I've learned as it's happened more to not let the fear really take over, because once it does, then it spirals out of control, and it usually gets really, really bad. So I haven't had, and it's really fun though with a lot of my close friends, because they can recognize it. They've been around me enough, and it happened. The last time it happened really bad, we did a group setting, and my friend across from me recognized that I'm looking around with that look that I don't know anybody, and he just leans in. He says, "Hey man, I'm so excited that you're going with me to that tattoo parlor, get a butterfly on your back, man. That's going to be so cool." And I was like, I think he must be a friend, because I know I ain't doing that. So my friends will mess with me a little bit. And I asked him later, I said, when you followed through? And he said, 100%. That'd have been the best story ever. If you went and got yourself a tattoo because you just didn't know who you were. So, and that's your best friends anyways, right? Like the people always say, your friends are always there for my best friends, and especially in the cowboy and rodeo world, they're gonna tease you. They're gonna make fun of you. My rodeo friends, my nickname is FG, which stands for fainting goat, because I'm their personal fainting goat. And so, there's this whole thing of being in the fainting goat club, which means you were there when Nick passed out in front of you. And it's like I've had people who post selfies with me laying on the floor passed out, because they're like, "Yes, I finally made it in the fainting goat club." Because I make lightheartedness of it, they make lightheartedness of it. Why be so serious about it and get offended by it and and get my panties in a wad because somebody's. And I learned that a lot from my brother. So my brother, when he was 18 years old, he had a rodeo accident, broke his neck, and he's paralyzed from the armpits down. And you he's got good days and bad days, and so there's days you just don't tease about it. But he's the first one to send me memes of something funny, somebody in a wheelchair and stuff, because we've learned if you laugh about your circumstances rather than trying to look for places to be offended or feel sorry for yourself. Feeling sorry for myself is not going to get me anywhere. We were talking about it right before we went live. I had a really bad knockout here about a month ago that's made some really bad changes, and I've been having some issues. And I have good days, I have bad days, I have some days I wish I could forget, which in my case is a pretty good chance I'll forget, which so I guess glass half full. But I'll have those days, and sitting here and having and moping about it and having a bad attitude about it, it's not going to help me, and it's not going to help anybody else around me. So why should I have a bad attitude? Yes, I have days that I have to go just kind of sit down, put some video games on, and just zone out from the world, because it does hit, it does wear on you, but not letting that become my thing, or looking to be a victim of any sense, but rather my heart is to bless other people. And so if I'm focusing on just myself and how it affects me, how am I going to be able to help somebody else? And the brain there's been studies to prove this, that what your brain focuses on, it's a computer, and you are training your brain what to look for. So if you're always looking at negative things and you're finding the negative in something, it's think about it first about somebody you're bitter towards. You know, everything they do, you see through that lens of bitterness. And so now everything, your brain immediately, something good happens to them and your mind immediately goes to, you know, something negative about what happened with them because you hate them so much because of that lens of bitterness. You trained your brain. So if you're focusing on negative things when you step out in the world, your brain, you've told your brain, this is what I want you to look for. So now everywhere you look, you're just going to see the negative in that. You're going to see, how am I a victim in this? How does this affect me? Rather than just really trying to wire the brain to be positive. So when I step out, I'm not so focused on what people are doing, you know, I failed last night. I went out in public and went with my wife and I went shopping, and I cannot stand selfish people who cut their car in front of everybody. And it was just one person after another, and I was mad. Like, I'm like, and I had to stop myself and be like, no, you know, look for the positive in this. You know, maybe that person's, you know, daughter is dying or something and had to cut me off, whatever it is, but not going out into the world focusing on negative all the time, because then your mind. So when it comes to me and what I'm dealing with, yeah, I have bad days. Yeah, I have days where I'm open, but I don't make that the normal. I really try to focus on how can I be positive for other people? How it's not fair to my wife and kids for me to be in a bad attitude because of something I put myself through. I'm the one that nodded my head on them bulls. I'm the one that did that, you know, and it's not them. And they're my wife and kids are so great through all of this. But for me, it's what can I do for myself so that I can be better for others? And so I think a lot of that comes with your personal, how you think, how you personalize. You know, my main keynote is called Knocked Out but Not Down, correlates with the book, and it's talking about being able to push through bad days, push through adversity, push through change. And the only three things I can control are my attitude, my work ethic, and my mentality. And if any of those three stink, I'm not going to be able to push through whatever it is I'm facing because I'm too caught up with having a bad attitude, or I'm too caught up with being lazy and I'm like, I'm not going to work hard towards that, or I'm too caught up with my mentality just being a looking for the bad rather than what, you know, controlling how I want to move forward. How important is it for me to get past this and to be able to work through what I'm working through? And so it's if I'm going to speak it from the stage, I dang sure better live it in my real life.
So I was wondering, because you know, this is just my impression, but you know, the sort of cowboy world sounds quite rough and tumble. And I don't know that I would fit in there. I'm not sure. Um, but were you always like this, or through what's happened to you? You know, because I get this sense that there's this part of you, this work ethic that you've reached into that's helped you with that. But have you always been that? Have you always looked at how you were and what you were doing in that same way? And has it been enhanced through the situations that you've gone through, or is it really motivated heavily by what you've gone through, if that makes sense?
And a little of both. So the work ethic side of it, you can't grow up in the cowboy world and not have a strong work ethic. If you're ranching, if you're farming, it's hard work, and you're starting it at a young age. You know, I was driving on the highway at 11, 12 years old. You know, and I was driving a semi truck at 16 years old. You know, like you're you you're out there, you're working, you're up. You know, the John Wayne phrase that my dad used, "We're burning daylight." I mean, if I did not have breakfast by 6 o'clock in the morning, I didn't get breakfast because we're already outside saddling the horses and we're already getting to work. And so, because these animals depend upon you going out there and taking care of them, and when it's a large operation, it's not, oh, just going out to the barn and feeding a couple animals or going and looking at my little 50-acre pasture. It's you are riding the fence line, fixing fence. You are finding, are the cattle all over the water? Are they? I mean, you're doctoring, you're working, it's from sun up sundown. You're out cutting hay and then you're baling hay. Now you're loading all those big old square hay bales on a trailer. I mean, you're working from the time the sun comes up until the time the sun goes down, because those animals depend upon it, but also the world depends upon your food that you are supplying for the table. And so everything from vegetables to meat to whatever it is. And so that ranching and farming mentality builds a strong work ethic in someone, because there is no other choice but to be. As far as attitude, I'll be the first to admit it now. It took me a long time to admit it. I talk about it in my book. Is bitterness. I became very bitter. because, and I started riding steers when I was 9 years old, started riding bulls when I was 12. By 16, I was traveling full time, doing it as this is my life. And I'm making friends, some of my best childhood friends since 10 years old and on. Like we were a hub of guys that went on to be some of the best in the world. That like some of my friends are Hall of Famers that we were going to school together and we're working together and we're riding together. We had an arena in our house, and so we're practicing riding bucking horses and bulls in our house almost on a daily basis. Like these are your brothers. And then I make it to the pros at 18 years old and just can't stay healthy. And I'm hurt. And then I come back and I get hurt again. And I'm back and I get hurt again. And it's not little injuries. It's a broken neck. It's a broken back. Like it's serious injuries. And so then at 21, I'm being told that, we can't fix this shoulder. We just did full reconstructive on this shoulder. And you just tore this shoulder up enough that we can't fix it to where you can ride. Your career is essentially over. Well, not even essentially, it's over. And at 21, it's done, and my attitude stunk. And it's a hard sensation. Other athletes get this. Like when I talk to other professional athletes, I get this. I was so stoked and so happy to see my friends going on and making the national finals, which is like the World Cup of rodeo. Watching them go on and win world championships, I was stoked for them, but I was bitter at home. Like I was mad. I was like, that should be me. I should be there. Why am I not there? And so my attitude stunk, and it took years to where I was happy for them and hated it for me. And I kind of had to learn that bitterness is so dangerous, because bitterness it'll find a little place in your heart and you don't even know you have it, and it grows without you even realizing it, to where eventually it changes the entire filter of anything that you look through is now through bitterness. And people say, well, I don't get bitter. Well, think about when you're at work and somebody else gets a promotion you feel you deserve. Where do your thoughts go? Or someone gets that parking space, or somebody else gets a promotion, or you're a comedian and somebody else gets a break, and you're like, I worked harder than them. That's where bitterness starts to kind of make its root and get through. And so I remember being just absolutely bitter about this, and moping about it, and having a bad attitude. And one of my brother and I's best friends won a world championship, and my brother calls me all excited. And he wanted to win a championship in the saddle bronc riding. And my brother uh, was a saddle bronc rider and was one of the best out of that pool of guys that went on to dominate saddle bronc riding in the radio world for years. He was one of the best out of that. And so he said that, and I said, well, that should have been you. Like you should have been that world title. Like because I was mad, so I'm bitter for him as well. And he said a statement that has become a mantra for me. He said, you can get bitter or you can get better, but you can't be both. And that really stuck with me, because here I am being bitter about, my career ended at 21, and I can't do that anymore. But I'm still able to do regular life things. I'm still able to go fishing. I'm still able to play golf. I'm still able to do all this different stuff. And here he is, 18 years old, his whole career ended, and he's paralyzed from the armpits down, and he's had to change his entire lifestyle, and he can't do any of those things. And here I'm the one being bitter, and he's the one telling me. And so that's when my attitude changed. That's when I took a different approach of no longer like, man, I need to get a hold of this. And so like I didn't just like, hey, my attitude changed, I'm gonna write a book about it. No, that was 18 years ago. That was 18 years of learning to overcome bitterness, learning to recognize it. And I still fight. We're human. We're humans. We're selfish by nature. Someone says I'm not a selfish person. Then I ask them, when you take your group photo and you go to look at the photo, who's the first person you look for in that photo? I mean, we're selfish people by nature, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we're wanting to look out for ourselves, for our family, for our people in our bubble, for all that's around us. It's when selfishness starts to take over that it becomes more of an issue. I can't remember who said it, but selfishness is pretty much when it's no longer about making it about your life. It's about making everybody else want to work within your life. And so and learning all of that, and years of building that, and still fighting it, because we're human nature, and that's where a lot of that has built out of, and where it's brought me along the path now that I'm blessed to get up on stage and help people through it. Bitterness was a very small part of what I talked on, but it seems to be the biggest feedback I get from my book, and it's a lot of feedback I get from people at conferences that I speak at. I get pictures all the time of people who put on their computer or on their desk written better, better, not bitter, and they'll send it to me, and I'm like, that to me, that validates everything that every morning that I don't want to do my brain exercises and I'm doing them, that validates it to me. Because here's somebody who's like, man, I've struggled with this, and I'm putting a reminder like that spoke to me enough. I'm putting a reminder on my computer. Okay, I'm not going to get bitter about this, or just think like the feedback that I get from people at conferences of not at the conference, but 3 4 months later. That's what drives me. That's what fuels me in the morning to go to my mental gym, so to speak, when I don't want to go there is because my heart has always been other people. My heart has always been, even when I was riding bulls, and it's gotten me in a lot of binds because people take advantage of me. And I'm like, you know what? They're going to have to answer for that someday. I'm still going to be here and I'm going to bless whoever I can bless. I just make that note in the back of my mind, like I can't trust that person. And now my with some things, because with concussions, and I don't want to dive into a huge rabbit hole, but with concussion issues come suicide attempts. And so I've had to learn to battle those after two failed suicide attempts. I've had to learn how to get ahead of that. And one of the biggest things I've had to do is cut negative people and cut divisive people out of my life. And some of them I can't get around because I work with them. I'm around them. But I will be professional with them, but they have no place in my mind anymore. I cannot let them get into that bubble because of how much they've wreaked havoc in the past and got me to the point of taking a gun to my head and pulling the trigger.
Wow. You've said so much in there that I want to touch on. I don't want to just sort of skip over the suicide thing because I think it's, that's a huge part. But I just want to just come back on the better not bitter part. Why do you think that resonates with people? Is it like part of me says it's a catchy title. It's not a difficult thing to remember. Is like things that sort of stand out in our memory are quite easy to sort of hold on to. But is it? Do you think a lot of people see themselves as bitter, or they can recognize that in themselves? What do you think it is?
Well, for every good slogan that people change people's life, it's catchy. Like it has to be. And so something like that it's easy to pull back in your mind. It's easy to remember. And so that's kind of one of the reasons that I use that better, not bitter. Mainly that, and because my brother had said you get better or bitter. But I think the big part is recognizing, okay, I didn't get that promotion. I can get bitter about that. Or what can I do to get better to put myself in a position to get that promotion the next time it's better. And so that's where that better not bitter comes in, is if I'm bitter, I cannot improve because I'm looking at things through well, I already deserved that versus what do I need to do. And so like I have a lot of things, I talked about it from stage, but I also have it in my book of the changing the mind of how you see things. So instead of it's funny, I speak from the stage on this all the time, but when I go to bring it up without having my notes, it's I can never remember it. We'll blame the brain injury for that. But things like, I wish I had what that person has. Well, you don't know what work that person did behind the doors or behind the scenes when you weren't looking. You didn't see them in the gym. You didn't see them putting the work in. You didn't see them staying late. You don't know what they did to get there. So instead of having an attitude of jealousy, have an attitude of admiration. What did they do to get there? If you're looking at somebody and saying, it's so funny. I'm just like my mom went blank, but mainly just kind of these things that we think naturally, pulling that natural back and saying, what can I learn? How can I get better? What can I do to get better in this situation? Okay, I didn't get that. Somebody else, oh, they were just lucky. They were lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Well, I've learned through years of everything I've been involved, luck looks a whole lot like hard work. And so, our opportunity looks a whole lot like hard work. And so, what do I need to do to put myself in that position for that opportunity the next time? They did something to put themselves there where they got that opportunity. Instead of looking at them saying they were lucky, what do I need to do? And so that's kind of that better, not better mentality, is what areas do I need to improve on? And never settling for I'm good enough. I've been blessed to be booked to be speaking a whole lot. But and it's human nature. You're like, hey, I got 20 speaking gigs, but 5 of them pick somebody else. oh man. And then your mind wants to go, well, you're horrible. That person's better than you. You're like, wait, I got picked 20 times, but 5 didn't. So me, instead of getting bitter that those 5 didn't pick me, I'm like, okay, why didn't I get picked? And I just want to know, because that's something, an area I may need to improve on. Okay, I didn't have a good enough speaker reel. All right, hey, we're working on it. We're going to get a better speaker reel. Like whatever it is that makes it to where, I'm always wanting to improve and always wanting to get better, rather than just settling where I'm at and then getting bitter that I'm not moving forward. We always say, well, I want guidance. I want, people will be like, God, God want God to guide me. Well, he may be sitting there in the boat, winging back and forth on steering wheel, but if you're still tied to the dock, there's no guidance you can get out of it. And so just stepping forward and saying, okay, what do I need to, I need to move forward. What does that look like? But sitting here at the dock complaining about not catching any fish because there's no fish coming to the dock where I'm at, is that's getting bitter. Getting better is, okay, I'm gonna go find the fish.
Yeah. We've just dropped out of your videos. Yeah, that's back. Cool.
Yeah, a
No,
notification came up. I'm sorry. Did you
no.
lose all of that?
No, I heard you. That's perfect. So,
Okay.
but I was just thinking about the better not bitter, and I have this thing about self-awareness. I've always said it's like a superpower, because I think so much goes on. We get so busy. We have all these signals around us, etc. And we get very self-involved. Like, that's, like you said, kind of our default almost. But that better not bitter is almost just enough pause to go, oh, okay. And I think self-awareness is this ability just to go, oh, just step back, just 1 foot away, and just go, what's actually going on in here? I don't need to be part of that story. And if you can take that step back and you can see, oh, my brain's doing this, or I haven't seen this part of it. My brain has just gone, okay, why am I not in that? Why have they got it and I haven't? But that self-awareness, that moment, that pause can be a millisecond. You go, so you're not reacting, you're looking at it and go, oh. And I always think, if you can turn that into curiosity and go, why is that? Not in a way against yourself, but you just go, okay, well, like, what's going on? What's the thing I don't know? What's the thing I could be doing? And it's such a, but and I'm just thinking, it lands so well because it's such that perspective shift, and those words are just so polar opposite, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, absolutely, I can be this or this, and it's 3 words, and it just changes your perspective, and it's
It's a one letter change.
yeah,
It's a one letter difference.
yeah,
And a lot of times all it is just a minor attitude adjustment. That's all it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's profound, right? And I just think, when you have that step back and you look at that perspective, you go, right, I can show up differently. And oftentimes I found myself, if I'd done something, I'll give a simple example. I shout at the kids, and oftentimes that's happened. And then I beat myself up internally about shouting at the kids, saying, oh, I'm a terrible father or whatever. And then I just spiral, and I'm down this rabbit hole of, like, beating myself up in my head. And I go, and I've recently realised, if I just say, oh, that was silly, and the word silly brings this sort of playfulness, and I go, yeah, it was silly. And then I don't go down this rabbit hole of hours beating myself up in my head and then continuing to feel crap about the day. Just bring it back and you go, yeah, I can just get on with fixing whatever's in front of me, maybe apologise to the kids if I feel that I was unjust. And you go, wow, but it's amazing how our brain can take us down a route for a long time. And if that's your default, it's, and what I love about you is that you don't just say, oh yeah, it's one and done. This is a constant thing for you. And the fact is that you have to fight harder than probably, I want to say 99% of the people. I'm just making up a statistic, but really I've never come across anyone that has to do what you have to do. But you're doing that. And I think that's very inspirational in the fact that if people say, oh, that's difficult, look at you, look at what you have to do, your routine and everything like that. And you're not sitting there, like you say, yes, you have bad days, but you're saying, okay, I can actually change my focus and go this way. Now, if someone like you who's gone through all those experiences can do that. Okay, that should inspire other people to be able to say, right, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. And like most things, people think, you go to the gym and you build this, amazing body overnight. It doesn't work that way. And it's the same for the brain. Even, without all the concussions and everything like that, we need to train our brains. And I understand, certainly in my own world, a lot of stuff that I carry with me is from my childhood, not negative stuff as in, nothing terrible, terrible, but just visions or versions of how I saw the world through a child's eyes, and I carry it through, and I'm still using that same perspective, that same vision, and being able to go, no, it doesn't actually have to work that way, and just taking a step back. Like, I want to say game changer, really, because you go, oh, okay, and life becomes a lot easier just by doing that, because it's hard to. It might feel easy, or it does feel sometimes, when you want to be bitter and you're angry at the world or whatever, and that can feel easy, like it's just, yeah, that's just, and I'm just letting go of all those emotions. But the reality is, life is a lot better when you're not bitter. Like like there's synchronicities happening. Like you go, yeah, like stuff's just happening because I'm better. And you go, wow. Like when you experience it, like you don't want to not experience that anymore.
You can get addicted to feeling sorry for yourself,
Yeah.
just like you can get addicted to anything else because it releases stuff within the body that gives you this sensation, and your brain reads that as almost like an addiction. So I have something I call the 15-minute rule, and it bursts from riding bulls. I was really streaky at one point in my career where I'd ride like 6, 7 bulls in a row, and then buck off 8 or 9 bulls in a row, and ride 4 or 5 bulls and buck off 6 bulls. And I realized that my emotions were really dictating. When I rode, I was super high. When I bucked off, I was super down on myself. And then I'm thinking about that, and then when I get on, I'm making mistakes because I'm trying too hard to overcome the last mistake. And so I made this rule called the 15-minute rule, where I had 15 minutes to have my emotion, whether it be elated, mad, whatever that was. I had my 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes was up, say, all right, I can't change that. Whether I won the radio or I bucked off, I can't change it. All I can do is moving forward. So I'd ask 3 questions: what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And what can I improve on? Every single time. And so I've rolled that over into my life when facing adversity or something that happens. We lost our house in Hurricane Harvey. Like, I've been faced with layers of adversity just kind of through stuff, but we lost our house in Hurricane Harvey. It was total. And FEMA, which is the government subsidy that comes in and helps with our natural disasters, they were pretty much like, well, you've got insurance and you're showing that it has total coverage, which means your insurance will cover. So we're not going to give you anything. The house is absolutely total, but we just don't think it's on us. And then the insurance was like, yeah, your house is total, but we don't think it's on us, so neither of us going to pay for it. So I'm stuck with a total house, 2 little kids and a wife, holes in the walls, holes in the roof. Like, I mean, it's totaled out house, and we're living on subfloors and trying to get through it. And you can sit there and roll down this hill of pity and never get out of it. Or, you know what? I take my 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes, it's, some things it takes longer, but that 15 minutes, the point of it is to wrap your head around what's happening. Wrap your mind around what has happened. Try to make sense of it. A loved one has died, been diagnosed with cancer, whatever it is. You take that time to wrap your mind around it. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's a week, whatever that time frame is. But at some point, you have to stop and say, okay, now I'm done with that. I can't change anything else. All I can control is from this moment forward. Maybe it's something I did wrong that put me in this position. Okay, what can I improve on that? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I improve on so that I can learn from this? So number one, it's not going to happen again, but also so I can get through this adversity, get through what I'm facing, what I'm about to go through. I've had that 15 minutes. I processed everything, but now I'm not going to sit and mope my own manure anymore. I'm going to move forward, control my attitude, my work ethic, and my mentality.
It's That's amazing. And what I really like about that is the fact that you're processing it, because
Mhm.
oftentimes we're told to suppress emotions and like what's going on. And, I think, especially as men, I'm sure it's the same for women, but I think, historically for men, it's like, oh, sort of buck up, just get on with it. And you don't have time to process it. And I feel that, that whilst on some levels, I feel that's useful, because people don't want you to sort of wallow in self-pity, etc. I think what that also does is it misses the fact that you need to process it. I think so. I feel that we say like the body holds the score, so the brain is doing a lot of stuff, but actually, if you swallow emotions, they're in your body somewhere and they show up. A simple example is, oh, I've got a rash, or your foot hurts or swells up, or something like that. And I feel oftentimes that's because you've swallowed emotions. But what you're saying is much healthier. Is okay. Look, you take your time, and yes, simplest example is 15 minutes. It's not limited to 15 minutes. But you say, right, okay, I'm fully allowing myself to be human in this, and just sort of say, yeah, okay, whatever needs to come out comes out, as long as it's not detrimental to anyone else, I guess, and just process that, and then I get on. And I think that is really helpful, because like I say, I think that's the bit we often miss out. We think, no, we've got to go straight to solution, and then we don't actually look, because in that moment, like you say, there's a lot of wisdom, right? You go, right, okay, I'm processing it. You clear all the emotions or whatever it is going on, and you get that out of the way, and then your head's clear, and then you go, right, okay, now I'm going to do a little assessment of what actually did I do something, how can this be improved, and what's going to happen going forward. That's a very clever, very human way of dealing with stuff, right?
It's like communication in a marriage. So my wife and I, we've been married 20 years, and people don't believe this unless they've been around. So we've been 20 years, we haven't fought once. We've disagreed, we've annoyed each other, we've done stuff that made the other person mad. We've done that, but we refuse to communicate while we're mad, because doing that, you are saying things that you're going to never be able to take back. And that's a lot like stopping work at the gym. The first time you fight, then it just becomes easier to fight. So while we don't fight, we still communicate, because that is the important thing. So just like with moving forward, you still have to process what happened. You can't just suppress it. We still have to address what was it that made you mad at me. Okay, but we're going to calm down first, and we're going to talk with a level head, because then we can fix the issue, rather than just bring up everything. Well, you did this to me 3 years ago. Well, you did this to me 7 years ago, and then you're hollering and screaming, and nothing's getting fixed. And then you see it happen so much in marriages where the they don't talk and communicate out the issues until they get mad at each other, then they fight, and then they finally get off their chest what they've been wanting to say. And so then fighting becomes their only form of communication. And then eventually down the road, their marriage is like, why are we fighting all the time? Why is it that? Because you've learned that's the only time we can say what we want to say. And that's because
Yeah.
that's only, so it's the same thing of, while some people are like, well, not fighting in your marriage is not healthy because you don't get, no, communicating is the key. That is the key. You still communicate. We just choose when to communicate and talk it out. We're around each other all the time. We've been 20 years married. You're gonna annoy each other. You're gonna get mad at each other. You're gonna have disagreements. You're gonna have all of that stuff, but choosing when. So the same thing with the 15-minute rule is yes, if I suppress all this, it's gonna come back someday, right?
Mm.
But I'm going to process it. I'm going to think it through, go through all of it, but regurgitating it up. So cattle, I work in the cattle world, and they have multiple rumens, multiple stomachs, and they'll eat the food, chew it down, swallow it. Then they'll spit it back up, swallow, chew on it some more, swallow it, spit it back up, because that's how they process it, because their stomachs are different than ours. And we as humans try to do the same thing when something bad happens to us. We may swallow it, and then every time something remote, we bring it back up, and we want to just sit there and chew on it and chew on it. And the reality is, let's face it, you want to feel sorry for yourself. You want to feel that feeling of, "Ah, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this happened to me. Oh, my miserable life. Nobody gets me. No." And rather than just be like, hey, that happened. What can I learn from it? I've taken the time. The important thing is to take the time to process it. I've talked it out. If you have to go to counseling to get it talked out, go to counseling, get it talked out. But stop drumming it back up every 3, 4 days, 3, 4 years, whatever that is, to get that feeling of feeling sorry. Because listen, I have those thoughts want to come up, and I have to capture them. Like, it's natural. It's so funny. I don't remember a lot of my past because all my concussions, but I can tell you what drums up in my mind all the time, every mistake I've ever made. Like I'll be sitting there in some conversation I had with a teacher in second grade where that embarrassed me. That'll pop up in my mind. I don't remember. I don't even know the teacher's name because your mind wants to remember all the negative things that's ever happened in your life, and so that will come back up in your mind, and then you'll sit there and you'll chew on it, you'll regurgitate it, and you'll think over it. And to me, the 15-minute rule is okay. I've processed what's happened. Now, what can I do moving forward? The only way I'm going to be able to get through this, my brother in a wheelchair, the radio is a contact sport. Okay. We've been contacted. That's pretty much the easy way to say it. It's a contact sport. We got hurt. I've got 8 friends who are in wheelchairs from rodeo accidents, 8 of them, because you're dealing with live animals. You're dealing with the most athletic animals in the world that are bucking harder than anything that you can even wrap your mind around. You're hitting the ground at a speed. We had the Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee, had a bunch of us bull riders test out how many G forces and how much exertion and everything we were doing. They take these things inside our ears, and they were like, when you hit the ground on a really hard buck off, it's like hitting a wall at 65 miles an hour. They're like just the exertion. The amount of exertion is like somebody running at a full sprint for 600 meters in an 8 second period. That's how much energy you're burning in that 8 second period. And so you're putting your body through all of this different stuff, um and I totally went on a rabbit trail. My mind went off a different direction there, so I don't even know where I was talking with that. But you have to learn to move forward. You can't stick with where you're at.
Yeah, it's I have to pick up on that point that your concussion makes you forget where you are and so much stuff. Yet your brain can process information when you were a child. That's phenomenal, right? That
Yeah.
says so much, So it's
Well, it's one of
crazy.
the reasons. It's one of the reasons neurologists think that I'm so high functioning, despite the amount of damage to my brain. When you do a scan of my brain, I'm supposed to be in way worse shape than I am. But I have a very high IQ. I'm on the Mensa scale, and so they really think that's a big part of why my brain has been able to almost heal itself in some areas. Even though the IQ isn't really necessarily reading how much the brain functions rather than just your ability to use it. It's being able to wire and rewire different areas inside the brain and be able to think through more what I'm dealing with and being more coherent in the moment. It's really hard to explain. When I talk to neurologists, they spin off words I can't repeat. I don't, and not because they're cuss words, but because I have no idea what word they just said. But that's it in a nutshell. And so
Wow. So I'm conscious of time. We've got just a little bit left, but I want to sort of just do this little tangent of comedy because
yeah.
that I am part of me says that's I want to say like a coping thing, like comedy. I mean, I have loved comedy since I was a child. I think it's pure genius and what it actually. So I was watching this program the other day, and I was just absolutely laughing out loud, and it was just like full belly laughter, and I was just like, I could not feel a better emotion. Just I was on my own, no one was here, and I was happily laughing out loud. There was no performative side to that for me. And I was just like, yeah, this is just so clever. And the way that humans can do it, different cultures, different attitudes, everything. I think it's such a smart thing to do. Why did it land for you? Were you always into comedy or is just
I'm
something,
I'm
an
always
opportunity?
so I'm not like most comedians where I don't feel like I have to be funny 24/7. So if it naturally happens, it naturally happens. But I'm not trying to slip in jokes and trying to because to me that's just corny. So
Yeah.
I've always kind of naturally been funny, but more in a shock you kind of not shock you, but surprise you kind of way. And so comedy to me, it's a good challenge. It's very hard. It's one of the hardest things to do to get on stage because you can be with a bunch of people and tell a story and it's funny. You get on stage and tell that same story that's not funny. Like it's a crazy phenomenon. It's you're able to be yourself and find your identity there in what you do, your style of humor. But I used to go into comedy and once again it's all your mindset. And you go to do a comedy show and let's say there's, especially early in your career, there's 20 people in the crowd and 15 are laughing and 5 aren't. Your mind focuses on the 5 who aren't laughing and you're going, man, why were they not laughing? And you're beating yourself up. And I had a comedian who's very successful here in America tell me, he said, because you're thinking wrong. He said, your job is not to get laughter from the crowd. Your job is to gift laughter to the crowd. And so that's changed my whole mentality on comedy is like, hey, I'm there to bless you with laughter. And then it doesn't bother me if there's 600 people in the crowd and one guy in the front, because there's always one guy in the front with his arm crossed, not laughing. It just never, it always, he's always in camera view, so you can't cut him out of your clips, you know. But there's always one guy, and most comedians will focus on that one guy, and it's rather, no, I am gifting laughter to someone who has had a bad day. I don't know what they're going through. I've got a picture that I love, and it's three boys. It's at a dance hall that I did a comedy show at, sold out crowd. Three boys sitting in the front, and they're just all of them are belly laughing. Now, all of them are holding their belly and belly laughing. And I have that picture there because at the end of the show, they come to my merch table, and who I thought was their dad, he said, I want to thank you for these boys. He said they're brothers. Both their parents were killed in a car wreck a couple months ago. And this is the first time we've talked them into leaving the house to go do something fun. And this is the first time I've seen them laugh since their parents died. I have that picture and look at it all the time to remind me why I do what I do. It's not to validate my ego. It's not to make me feel good about myself. It's to bless people where they're at, give them that tiny moment of reprieve to laugh through whatever it is they're going through. That's why I make jokes about passing out. That's why my brother and I make jokes about him in a wheelchair. It's because it is almost a coping, but in the same sense, it's also just we are not going to let that dictate our attitude. And so I'm going to try to take you through humor, doing it in a clean way, which is even more challenging, especially in today's world where comedy getting raunchier and raunchier. Doing it in a clean way that someone could bring their kids and laugh, being on edge enough that people are like, oh, it could be dirty if you wanted to, but I'm not. I choose not to be, and just kind of making that and navigating it and learning a crowd, and it's a challenge for me for my brain. I've only had issues on stage twice, where my brain is acted up, and but the rest of the time I just put the work in and really focus in and do a lot of exercises. I'm a musician. I do, and so you know all about warming up and doing music and all that. I do way more with comedy because I don't want to get on stage and have that issue. But it forces me to get outside of just um, being dependent on myself, but rather, speaking in comedy gives me a purpose because I can't golf anymore. I can't fish anymore. I can't do anything outdoors anymore because the heat, what it does to my losing the ability to speak will scare you straight when doctors say stop doing stuff outside. Because it was working outside doing yard work that caused the HIE to happen. And so like this has become my purpose to help people. And I'll look at that photo anytime I'm like, you fly across the country and you come back and you end up losing money on the show and you're just like, wanting to feel down. It's like I look at that picture and go, those three boys right there, I don't know what people are going through in the crowd. I have no idea. But being able to have an ability to write something in a way that hits them in a way that makes them forget about what they're going through and laughing. And then the large crowds, there's no greater feeling than being in front of a couple thousand people and hearing them all laugh in unison. Like there's no greater feeling. Like just like they're laughing and you're like, man, and my heart always being to bless other people. It's a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, that's, I absolutely love that because I think comedy can really transport you, really. I just, it can get you out of that moment, like you said, like that negative feeling or wherever you are in the world. And it's such a genius thing. And people often go to comedy shows and they go, oh yeah, I could do that. And really, really,
I
no.
always tell them there's open mic. Come on. There's an
Yes,
open mic in 3 days.
uh,
I think I'll always ask the clubs, when are your open mics? Just so I can tell the people that tell me I think I can do that. Hey, they got an open mic. Come on, do it.
yeah, yeah,
Because you never know. You maybe could. Probably
yeah.
not, but you maybe could. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think also you've found this way to do something that you really enjoy, but it supports the way that you are and, the lifestyle that you have to live, right? It's very smart because comedy is about timing, it's about words, and same as we said, better not bitter. It's something very small, but you have to play with these things, and it's testing it out. And it is an art, and people just think, oh, it's just someone just standing up and just saying a few words and stuff like that, and it's not. And I think you seem to have created this world that really supports you. And even in those down moments where, it's difficult or, challenging for you to do, you go, right, okay, well, these are my things. And in order to get there, I need to do this stuff that's maybe not the thing that I want to do in this moment. And I think if we look to that as a message for people that are watching this, about the resilience and stuff, find your, not purpose, because I think sometimes the purpose can be a bit misinterpreted, but find your why. What is it that you want to do? And then, that stuff that's going on, that you go, right, okay, I need to get through here to get there. And it becomes easier because you can look at that as a challenge. And I think you're a very extreme example, because, that's basically a daily functioning thing that you have to do. But sometimes we get so caught up in this stuff that stuff goes away, and we go, right, okay, find this thing, and then, okay, find a way to manage that better to get there, if that makes sense.
Hmm. No, makes total sense. I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me on to talk about it. I love talking to people with like mind, and I appreciate you taking the time to let me be a part of this.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So it's actually me that needs to run today, but I'm really pleased that you showed up for me. So
Yeah.
just quickly, I found you on LinkedIn, but you got a book which I think is on Amazon. I assume you've got a website. What's the deal? Any links? Where should
Yeah.
people go to
So
find you?
nickmorrisonspeaker.com, nickmorrisonspeaker.com, it's a site run by my management, that they do, my agency management for speaking. I have one, nickmorrisoncomedy.com, as well. You can follow me on Instagram at Nick Morrison Comedy. I'm kind of in some legal disputes, signed a contract with some people, and didn't read the fine print, so I'm not able to post comedy clips right now. And so, but I post other things about life and try to be motivational. You can follow me on LinkedIn. Just, I think it's Nick Morrison Speaker is the tag on that. But yeah, follow me. But the book is the most important thing. It's doing really well in Europe, selling a lot of copies over in Europe, and so you can get on Amazon in Europe, where you're at. It's knocked out but not down. I think they're closing in on 40,000 copies sold. It's only been out for about 6 months.
Well,
It's the
congratulations.
feedback on it has been amazing. It's not just for people with concussions. It's got a lot of fun stories. It teach you about radio, teach you about concussions, teach you about the life. I've got college professors saying that they're having their students write papers on it. I've got book clubs that are getting a hold of me saying like, "Hey, well, this really sparked conversation." It's something for everybody, but it's very informative, and so it's called Knocked Out but Not Down. And it's just this that's it's not my memoir. It's a concussion memoir, and it takes you through all of that, but everything in between. A lot of motivational, a lot of just kind of a little bit of everything, and I'm blown away at how well it's doing. Usually, someone reads it and they tell 5 friends, and those 5 friends buy it. I mean, it's been a word of mouth campaign, and we're selling copies like crazy, and so I'm loving to see that side of it come out.
That's amazing. I'll link to all of these. Well, yeah, I'll put all of these links in the notes. So I repost these on LinkedIn, and I'll put it up on YouTube as well. But for today, honestly, you've taken us on such a journey. You're so inspirational, and
Thank you.
just understanding, those life lessons, and I know, the world that you come from, we can just apply it across, it's so universal, I would say. And I thank you for that. And you're so, I could have listened to you for ages. So, but yeah,
I
thank you
appreciate
so
that.
much, Nick. I
Well,
really
and the other
appreciate it.
side too, anybody that's watching this, if they know people that need a speaker for an event, or even just I, that's the biggest thing you can do to me is pass my name on to people. And if you watch this and you're like, man, that's inspiring. Would love to get him on stage. Or, we give a commission to people that pass me on, and would love to be a part of it. It's on my goal to come over to Europe and do some speaking gigs. I'm hoping that eventually will come to fruition. So thank you.
Oh, fantastic. I will spread the word.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Take care.
Thank you, Colin.
Bye. It's me again. So just a quick ask at the end of this video. So my plan is to grow this channel, to have more conversations, to get more interesting guests, to have live, genuine conversations. Now, if you're a follower of YouTube, all the channels say the same thing, and I'm going to have to do it. If you like it, please subscribe and hit the bell notifications. It's quite easy, but it just gives me some feedback to understand what you like and allows me to bring those conversations to you. So I'd really appreciate it. It's pretty quick, pretty simple to do. If you've got any comments, let me know as well. If there's questions you think I should have asked, I'm open to feedback, constructive, of course. But let me know. And yeah, I really appreciate your support.